now begin. I'm going to call the meeting to order at about 1:08 or 1:09 p.m. And we're going to begin by announcing the opportunity for oral communications in which any member of the public may speak to an item not on the agenda. I see no one on Zoom and no one in this room who looks like a member of the public. So we've done our job by making the time available. We have to approve minutes from the April 7 meeting. I don't know what action minutes means.
So if you remember last week, the clerk helped us,
Mhm.
and so we switched them to action minutes. So it's only when there's something actionable do we write something, so it simplifies it. And then we have a recording. Actually, are we recording this?
Yeah.
Okay, and we are recording this, so
I have no objection to the minutes being action minutes in that sense. We don't have to call them action minutes. We should call them minutes.
okay. Well, I think the clerks just call them action minutes because they're not.
And I think, in my opinion, they're properly called minutes.
Okay.
So I'm, without asking for any changes, I'm gonna
Sure.
invite somebody to move to approve the
I would
minutes.
move approval.
Dina moves approval. Is there,
I'll second.
there's a second. Any objection to the adoption of the minutes? Hearing none, they are approved.
Can I just do a quick introduction just so people have context?
Sure.
So thankfully, we just hired 2 program assistants and they're both with us in Watershed Protection Group and Environmental Services. So Megan, pronounce your last name for me. Schmeezing, who started 2 weeks ago. So she's just brand new. So she's actually now going to be supporting me with the Stormwater Oversight Committee. Oh, good. Which is fantastic.
I was gonna say, you like that.
Yes, and then Olivia, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Olivia Trevino. As stated, I'm the program assistant 2 for the watershed protection team. I primarily assist Pam, who is on this call, and then Julie. And I've been on the team for, I think, around 3 months now, a little over 3 months. So
And so we're very fortunate to starting to slowly fill some of the holes that we have, which is great. So Olivia and Megan are huge attributes to our team. And they're helping us in a variety of tasks, as you can imagine. So it's nice to actually have some support, which we haven't had for a little while.
No, it's perfect.
So that I just wanted at least to introduce. And then I just wanted on the item number 2, they still want us every time we have a meeting to do the second item, the resolution.
To adopt a resolution authorizing use of teleconferencing.
So move.
Is there a second? Second. Any objections? So we have accepted the motion, the resolution authorizing use of teleconferencing. Okay.
And actually, do you want to go around and just do introductions so everyone else who you are?
For the, yes, for
Second
sure.
one's your packet there. So,
Your staff deserves the entertainment of knowing. So how about if we go clockwise, beginning with my cranky friend, Dina?
Cranky Dean Mossett.
so Dina Mosser, if you didn't hear that, Olivia.
I'm
Did you
sorry,
hear that okay? Okay.
A longtime civic, served past council member and right, and past mayor, am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so we rely on Dina for a lot of depth in that area.
She knows the rules.
She does. She says the auditors are going to come
It's
over.
cranky, and she'll remind you if you're not following.
She says the auditors are going to come in and whack you on the wrist if you
She
do
has
that.
experience.
See, I was cranky. You were right.
Next.
We're using mics or not?
We didn't have mics on now.
But I'm David Bauer hiding behind the mask.
Okay.
The mask, David Bauer.
Yeah.
Nice to
And
see
a
you.
hat. Actually, I did not want to you can see me. I was just introducing ourselves.
Yes, and you run your own commission meetings in another room.
Well, I don't anymore. I used to be, I'm on the Historic Resources Board still until March. Used to be chair of that. Lived in Colorado until last August, 71 years around the war. Was, yeah,
San Mateo.
Mateo.
We checked, he can still be on the Stormwater Oversight Committee because he still does business down here.
He's what?
Still does business down here, so we checked with the clerk.
Yeah.
We don't want to lose David. Not earlier than when your term goes up.
Yeah, no, I won't renew because I'm just in 35 minutes in traffic getting here.
I was gonna say.
Which is,
yeah.
which is why we moved to San Mateo, with 5 blocks commercial, rental, anyway. Building contractor for 45 years in the city, so I know it's something about both. Good, mostly good.
I think we need to change order.
No, they don't exist.
I'm Marilyn Keller. I've been on this committee for a while. I've been served to do utilities. Board of canopies. I'm here looking at the trees and study things. I've lived in Palo Alto a little bit in the 70s and then since 98.
So can you guys all hear on the, Bob, can you hear? Okay, good.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
we're
can
using
hear.
Owl. Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's
it does
low.
get picked up.
The volume is low.
Okay.
I think I'm done.
You're done? Okay. Hi, I'm Ron O's. Been on this committee, I guess I'm almost done with my first term, right? Very much, I think. Yeah, who knows? Nobody knows.
Oh, I know. I just don't like to look it up.
Anyway, she doesn't memorize it. So I'm a civil engineer, environmental, spent a lot of my career working in surface water and went to the University of Washington. Most of my life has been in the Seattle area, know it well, and a lot of it in Alaska as well. And and then we have a house here, a partner in Palo Alto, and try to conserve water and care about drainage and care about the environment and what comes off of surface water and what goes with drainage into, we want to make sure it's clean. So that's me.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, Ron, David, and Marilyn's term expires next year, 2023.
Next June 1st.
May 1st, May 31st. May 31st of 23.
I'm Hal Mickelson. I'm a retired corporate staff attorney from what was then Hewlett Packard Company, where I worked for 33 years. I have lived in Palo Alto continuously since 1982. I was also here to go to college from 1967 to 71, so my contacts go back a while. And yeah, do we have to elect a new chair at some point? Does the year turn over? Should we be having the
Probably
election of
did
a
the
chair?
new chair and vice chair when we had the new
schedule.
schedule.
There was that change in the schedule that made everything a year and a half, right?
Yeah, you're right. Can I get back to you on that one? I'll
Yeah,
Check with the clerk on that.
You should check with the clerk if
Alright.
we need to put the election of the chair on the next
Okay.
agenda, that we want to be orderly. And on the Zoom, we have Bob Wenslaw as a committee member. Bob.
Hi, my name is Bob Winslow. I'm an environmental civil engineer. I am working still. I have a company called Terradex, and we do web-based land stewardship within Palo Alto. Like many of us, an active volunteer. I'm president of our sister city organization, Neighbors Abroad, a board member of the Repair Cafe, and have a history in Palo Alto. Actually worked for the city in '78, dropping out of Stanford at the time, maybe '77, to start the curbside recycling. So it was a long, long time ago, but a fond memory of working with the city back then. So, and then in terms of the commission, picked up and was the chair of the bond committee that one basically renewed the bond. And I think I worked with Dina and others. I think I may have just lost power on my earbuds, but hopefully you got enough of an introduction.
Thank you, Bob. Karen, have we introduced everyone we need to from the staff?
Yes.
Okay. That brings us to the staff presentation of the fiscal year 2023 approved budget.
So there's nothing in the packet, just because I just wanted to verbally tell you. So I still don't have a management analyst. We are currently trying to hire, but the budget was approved, which is the most important thing. Thank you very much for your letter recommending the budget approval, because that's the go into the council packet and it was noted. There's nothing compared to what we met earlier in the year, no major changes in our budget at this point in time. There will be some budget changes in the future and we'll bring them to you and you'll see them. So just wanted to at least note it that budget is approved for the whole city. And then once you get the final documentation, I'll send it out to you guys. It's still in the draft format. It takes a little bit of time for them to send us the official final budget. If you remember that. So, yeah. So we can, that bought us some time, which is good. So we can move on to item 3.
The Stormwater Management Fund Capital Program.
And Michelle and Vicky, do you want to share your screen? Or would you prefer someone else sharing the screen? You're on mute.
I can share my screen. Let me find it. And I think Rajiv was having technical difficulties. He was kind of able to get in as me, but I'm not sure if he got an email from the panelists as a panelist.
And you have them, all teams chat them. Send them a new link. Get all this all down.
Life isn't hard enough, right? Nothing's gonna end up in capacity.
You know, we've learned to adapt and pivot. It's amazing.
I'll take this opportunity to move closer to the speakers.
Sure.
Perfect here, next to the fan.
We can also hit the plus button, Hal or Megan, so you can hear it louder.
Okay, so, oops.
Oh, my.
Can you guys see my screen? I'm using my, unfortunately, the way the lighting in my office is, I have to sit on the other side away from my monitors so you guys can see my screen, so you can see me. So today's presentation I've got with, I believe, well, I'm not sure if Rajiv is going to be able to join us in a minute. Hopefully he can. If not, then I may have to cover his area. Today's presentation, we're going to talk about all our CIP projects, or the ones we have. As you may recall, we've done Loma Verde. It's completed a couple of years ago now. It's one of Vicky's projects. We are still working on the 3 next projects, which is the West Bay Shore Road, Corporation Way, 2 pump stations, 2 small pump stations, and pipeline upgrades. These 2 projects, as you may recall, and we can go into a little bit in a minute, are the ones that were considered highest priority project, the one on Corporation Way. And following those 2, the next projects on our list are going to be East Meadow Drive and East Meadow Circle, right around here. These also need to connect the existing pipe system that's in East Meadow Circle, East Meadow Drive to Adobe Creek and upsize those projects. So we've started working on those, and you'll see a presentation if I can get Rajiv to come in to do this. If not, I'll cover that slide. So this is just basically the 13 projects that were identified by the ballot measure and approved. And this gives you an overview of where we are with the projects or where the projects are located. And we'll continue to update this. This is available on our website. So I don't see Rajiv is on this.
He should have received it. I'm sending it to him again. Why don't you start and I'll keep on trying.
Yeah. Thank you. So Corporation Way, West Bay Shore. We've covered this slide in the past.
Yes, it is in your email. But I'll send it to you. Okay, sure. No problem.
It's county.
Nelson's here.
Are we good? I know I can hear Ron talking. I'm not sure if you need a minute.
No, you're good.
Okay, so we've covered this slide in the past. This is just more of a recap just to show you the East Bay Shore, West Bay Shore project. East Bay Shore would be basically locating a pump station and discharging out to Adobe Creek. We've talked about this in the past. One of the issues that we're dealing with and why we're a little bit delayed on this is we are trying to negotiate with Google and trying to obtain easements to construct those pump stations. That has been ongoing for the last several months. As you can imagine, we're not high priority for Google, but they have been coordinating with us. It just takes a lot of back and forth. They have so far approved an easement for one of the sites, the one on West Bay Shore, which I'll show you next, placing a pump station here. This one seems to be more, they're more amenable to this location. We just need to get that easement, an actual recorded agreement from Google so that we can proceed with the design. But right now we're still.
Hold on a second, Michelle. Yeah.
I'm not real clear where you're pumping water from and to. What happens if you don't pump? I know it's so good flooding, but how high are we pumping it?
Michelle, can you answer that?
I-
Can
yeah.
you hear Marilyn?
I heard parts of Marilyn's question. Marilyn, let me answer that, but if I don't cover it, make sure to clarify. Maybe I missed part of your description. The reason that we're pumping water into Adobe Creek, as you can see along this slide, is because what's happening when we have high tide, when we have surface flows, or when we have runoff after a big storm event, the actual outfalls into Adobe Creek get below the water level in the creek. So we need a force main, we need to pump water to be able to lift that flap gate above the water, to pressurize, to open up the flap gate to release water into the creek when the creek water levels are high. What ends up happening under that scenario, when we have a significant storm event and Adobe Creek, Barron Creek confluence, water levels are high, is the flap gate cannot open up against the pressure of the water. So any water that gets captured in East Bay Shore, and also similarly, a scenario happens on West Bay Shore, tends to pond. I think we have photos that show it's probably, I would say, maybe 9 inches, a foot of water under a regular storm event. But if we deal with a significant storm event, 10-year storm event, we probably would have a higher flooding or higher ponding level all along West Bay Shore. It's the pressure of the water within the creek that prevents the flap gate from opening. So we need to provide a pressurized system.
Great question, great answer.
So how high do you have to pump it? It sounds like it's at least 9 inches, but is it higher on occasion?
Yeah, so it's not, we don't have to pump necessarily against the hydraulic. I mean, we have to pump against the hydraulic head, but I think what we need is the small pump station. Both of them are going to be relatively small, similar to what we have along Homer versus we don't need anything as big as Matadero or San Francisco Creek. We basically need to be able to push against the pressure of the water that's in the creek.
Thank you.
So what about, you're doing highway runoff right into the creek? Is there a water quality issue at all?
Under the East Bay Shore and West Bay Shore, I don't think so. Not as significant as much as we would have, say, for example, where we're dealing with, because of the barrier highway, there's a barrier up against the freeway that prevents any oil, grease, garbage, debris from getting into the two frontage roads.
So we have some kind of an oil water separator or something?
Not proposing as part of this project, no.
Okay.
So Rajiv should be part of you should be able to present now, Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, hi, this is Rajiv. I had an issue because I was only able to attend as a viewer, not as a panelist. So Michelle, maybe you can, I don't know where you left off.
So I'll wrap up West Bay Shore and then let you discuss the next slides.
Yeah, okay, that's fine.
So on West Bay Shore, as I mentioned again, we're trying to obtain agreements from Google for both properties. Both properties are owned by Google, and ideally we were going out to bid for 2 pump stations, 2 pipeline upgrade projects. These will be constructed phased out. We will do one side first and build the other. We feel like going out for construction of these 2 pump stations, we might be able to get reduced costs from a contractor. It would secure their jobs for the next couple of years. But right now we're slightly delayed due to this agreement, and this seems to be like a bigger issue. So with that, I think
Can I
I'll,
make one comment?
sure.
One of the things that would be nice to consider is this is the location where we have the overpass bridge, correct? That this is a really unique location where we could do some public information or just maybe make a sign that could almost talk about the work that the city's doing. So I was curious if there is any public information that would be intuitive, that would maybe introduce the project, because it seems like a lot of people go and they kind of stare off the bridge. That was all. So that's something you could think about.
Yeah. I think, once we get the project moving and once we know we can start the design, complete the design and go out to bids, solicit bids for this, then I think we could do, right now we have a project web pages as well. So we can start there and maybe utilize once we have more concrete and we have actually settled in, then we can have more information. We typically don't put noticing out there, but like you said, I agree that there's probably a new bike pedestrian bridge. So it's something that we can consider.
Yeah, what I've been redoing the Sister City sign, and I'm struck that it's amazing how many people look at the sign, and it almost provides a little bit of orientation, and this might be a really interesting place to almost ponder it as a permanent sign that could just present introduce a little bit of the stormwater, and you can use QR codes to bring people to the website. And so you have all my thoughts there. It's just a comment. Thank you.
No, we definitely consider it. I think we especially nowadays, we're doing a lot of virtual things, or especially as we're moving forward and we have a new bike bridge. I will bring it up and discuss internally.
I think Bob is right. You have the opportunity for an informational sign while there is construction going on, to the extent that people can see the construction. And then longer term, there may be something that people can see that you can explain. Sounds great to me.
Yeah. So with that, we'll go into the East Meadow Drive and East Meadow Circle projects.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Michelle. So again, this is East Meadow Drive capacity upgrades.
Rajiv, can you introduce yourself?
This is Rajiv Hada. I work under Michelle for the Storm Drain Group. So I've been with the city for, I think this September 2nd, it'll be about 14 years. So I'm an engineer. I work for the CIP projects with Michelle. So this is East Meadow Circle and East Meadow Drive project. This is another project that was approved by the ballot measure in 2015. And the project is, we just started, this project is under design and it's under, it's still on the paperwork at a city. So this is a project that was a brief overview of the project. On the left side, you'll see there's a flap gates, where it's written flap gates. Yeah, so this, what happens is when the water level on this Barron Creek gets very high, these flap gates get shut. And when these flap gates get shut, the water backs out from this pipe and it overflows on East Meadow Circle. So there's a flooding issue on East Meadow Circle when the water level gets very high at Barron Creek. So this project is to mitigate and to address this issue. And one way to do it is when the water backs up and it overflows on East Meadow Circle, is to install another pipe. There's a red line. That's what, there's another pipe that takes the water away from East Meadow Circle to East Meadow Drive and Adobe Pump Station already on the right corner. There's an Adobe Pump Station, takes to the Adobe Pump Station, and from Adobe Pump Station, it discharges into Adobe Creek. So this whole project was identified as a high priority project on the storm drain master plan by the consultants when they did in 2015. This was to address the flooding issue on East Meadow Circle when the water surface is very high at Barron Creek and it backflows. So
Reggie, there's a question.
How often does that happen? Like every month, the high tide or storms or?
So when they're usually at this whole 2015, when we did the master plan, the consultant did the master plan of 10-year, is a 10-year flow, 10-year storm event. Yeah, so during a 10-year storm event, when the water surface in the creek is very high, it's almost at the top, the floodgate gets shut, it backs up. So, but as far as the data is concerned, when has it happened in the past? I mean, I really don't have the data right off with me. I got to take a look at it when that happened. But in the analysis, it did show that the water backs up and then the street gets flooded in the storm drain analysis. So based on the 10-year analysis.
So Reggie, I think what they're trying to determine is how often, and I don't think we have the numbers recently, how often, especially because we've been in this mega drought. So this isn't what's typically, but these are all the projects that Michelle's team is working on is based off of when Joe Teresi was here and they have done an analysis. It was 10 years ago, the storm drain master plan, I believe. Determining which ones needed to be upgraded to reduce street flooding.
So it's every bunch of years.
Right.
It's catastrophic when it happens.
Right.
Okay.
So it means, I mean, that's the hard thing is right now, when we're in a drought, we're doing all these capital improvement projects and some people just don't necessarily connect it. But then when we're in a huge storm event and their cars are flooded, then they're like, why didn't we do this? So it's.
And then are those bottles upgraded for more current events, higher?
Yes, I mean, when they do the analysis, they're determining, this will basically allow overflow when it's the same issue that Michelle was talking about when they doesn't have the pressure to release into the creek. This is the same thing. The creek level is too high, it won't release. So this will now move the flow of water around and then put it into the Adobe pump station, which will then be able to discharge it to Adobe Creek.
I was looking, they had like 50 years of sea level rise.
Yeah.
To accommodate that. So we're looking at a long-term.
All the projects we're looking at are long-term.
It will be underwater in 50 years.
Right, which is
Yeah,
even more of a reason
exactly.
why we need the pump station.
But if you look at the precipitation curve for Palo Alto, there's a period of about 2 to 3 months when 90% of the precipitation occurs. And so really, so that's kind of interesting with what we're planning when what happens.
So when the water comes, you gotta get the water out. Thanks, Rajiv.
So one of the things, Marilyn, I wanted to kind of clarify. So there's a chance of having a 10-year storm event at any of our storms. It's whether or not we get enough flow for that. It's not every 2 years, rather. We could have back-to-back 10-year storm events routinely. One of the issues that also happens is if we've got flows that are coming in from another location discharging, it may increase the capacity, even if it hasn't been a 10-year storm event. If it was a smaller storm event, we may have high flows here, and we would have ponding, because of this is the lowland area of Palo Alto, we would have ponding within East Meadow Circle. So this allows us for a separate conveyance. It basically provides a level of redundancy for us.
So one thing I want to clarify, 10-year storm doesn't mean it happens once in 10 years, it means 10%. So when you hear the term 100-year storm, it means 1%. So I think that's, and when you mean 10-year flow, 10-year storm, it means 10%. So as Michelle said, it could happen every year. So what it means is the 10% chance of having this storm event. So that's what the whole, and that's what our all storm drain networks in the city is designed and built for, is for a 10-year storm. And then this project, it's just pipe upgrades. Pipe upgrades and new pipeline. So it's shown in the East Meadow Circle, there's a new pipeline, 12 inches pipe that's shown by the red line. That's connected to the existing pipeline. There's a black line shown over here, and it flows. Then it flows, and there's a blue line that is upgraded from the 36-inch pipe to a 48-inch pipe, because once you have extra flows coming in from East Meadow Circle to East Meadow Drive, then this 36-inch pipe is under capacity. So we got to upgrade that size of the pipe from 36-inch to 48-inch. So this blue line pipe, and it gets again connected to Adobe pump station, and from there it discharges to Adobe Creek. So basically the project objectives as outlined in the right side is 15 inches pipe gravity outfalls to Barren Creek, does not have capacity to discharge runoff into the creek when creek water surface is very high. Install new 15-inch pipe on East Meadow Circle to allow overflow to Adobe Pump Station on East Meadow Drive. Upsize 36-inch pipe on East Meadow Drive to 40-inch pipe to increase capacity to accommodate overflow from East Meadow Circle and to accommodate the 10-year flow. So next slide. So project schedule is right now what we're doing is potholing is we just send out an IFB for potholing for the contractors to do potholing on those proposed pipeline on both an East Meadow and East Meadow Circle to determine and to identify utility conflicts. The opening of the bid is on August 25th, and we hope to get the whole potholing done by September 22nd. And after that, we're going to start designing the pipelines, and we hope to get it designed and all for bid by December 2022. And hopefully by March, during the springtime, we hope to get all the pipes and get the project installed and completed.
So, but that's hinging on a couple of items. So I'm trying to advance these two projects if we keep getting stalled by Corporation Way, West Bay Shore. Ideally, that's where our main focus was, try to get those two. But as you can see, we've lost time because of Google's agreement. So at a later date, we might come back and touch base with you guys and let you know in advance, here's what we have the bids. Do we want to, are you guys comfortable proceeding with, or just knowing that we're proceeding with two different projects versus what we had originally forecasted? This unfortunately was a way of pivoting and utilizing the funds that we have available and actually completing some of our CIPs in light of Google's easements and taking up longer than expected.
Small question, when you say potholing,
Yep.
do I understand correctly that means you open it up and you see what's there, because until you do that, you don't really know what other utility lines are down there?
So potholing, it's basically
Is potholing.
Yeah, potholing, basically what they do is they'll remove a core sample of the pavement, the asphalt, the pavement, to figure out how deep our pipes may be. And typically what we try to do is locate where gas, water, sewer, someone else's utility is in relation to our new alignment. We don't want to install our utility too high or too low and hit someone else's line. So we're trying to find an area where we may not have a utility, or we want to verify what conflicts may exist. So we're looking for conflicts between any other utilities that may cross our proposed alignment. And that's true.
And I mean, let me just test my knowledge. You might have guessed that there's somebody somewhere would have a bunch of drawings and schematics and records of what's down there. But guess what? There isn't, or if there is, you can't rely on it. So you have to do this.
Exactly. So ideally, we do two things. We do first is an engineering survey, which is going out, locate valves, hydrants, anything above the surface. That's the first part, and also locating the inverts inside the manholes, both sewer and storm, trying to figure out as much information through a surveying process. The second step is typically potholing. We've done this on all the other projects as well, where we identify any potential conflicts based on a proposed alignment. Ideally, identifying those conflicts would eliminate or reduce the risk of change orders during construction.
So let me chime in.
I mean, that's
So
the one that really.
Beyond just the drawing
Rajiv,
plans, we
Rajiv,
also
hold
do.
Rajiv, hold on.
Yeah.
Someone
We
else
have,
had,
Ron was asking if we have fiber optics plans, because that oftentimes.
Yes, we do.
cause problems.
Yes, we do.
Identification of those things, so that's kills you.
No, we do have fiber optics plan. We did contact the fiber optics. We have a city fiber optics. Then we've got all the other cables, AT&T, and then Comcast and all these cable lines. We've contacted the representatives of all this other agencies aside from the city that owns all these fiber lines in the site area. So we have those drawing plans. So beyond the drawing plans, also what we rely on is USA markings. So there's a USA mark. There's a crew that goes out with electronic devices, and with the plans that we have, they lay out and they detect all these utilities on the street, and they mark the all these utilities on the street.
Sorry, Rajiv, I don't want to use up too much of everyone else's time, so maybe we'll keep going and have Vicky's presentation next. And we can come back and answer any questions if you guys have for us, but I want to make mindful of everyone else's presentations as well at time.
Hi everyone, my name is Vicky Tai and I'm an engineer with the Storm Drain Group with Rajiv and Michelle. And here at today's meeting, I'm going to give you an update on our storm drain system replacement and rehab project. Next slide, please. Thank you. So last that you guys heard from me was probably a while ago. At this point, as of July 2022, we've completed all underground pipe replacement work. So anything that required opening up the pavement and digging up the old pipe and putting the new pipe, we're 100% done with that aspect on this part of the project. And this project is about 9 months long. Back in April, we did some preliminary work of cleaning some of the pipes that will need to be lined. And during that evaluation, we found out that Middlefield and Bryson cannot be lined. It has deteriorated significantly since we first surveyed it, or during that process when they clean out the pipes initially. It may have gotten damaged in that time as well. We don't know. So we added work on Middlefield and Bryson, which is directly in front of the Midtown Plaza. So the corrugated pipe was removed, and in that picture on the right, we have installed the new HDPE pipe. So it really did start from Bryson Avenue, and it just went right in the middle of Middlefield Road. The remaining work left on this project is pretty much we have to finish striping around the city, like any markings we may have removed during this time will be replaced. We will finish installing the storm drain grates. Some of them aren't perfect or meet city standards, so we will be wrapping up on those as well. And CIPP lining is the next part of the project. And finally, CCTV, which is storm drain video of all the newly installed storm drain pipes. This will be done at the very end of the project, where we will video every single storm drain pipe to make sure that they're in good condition while we still have the contractor under contract. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned before, CIPP lining, we did some preliminary work in April 2022. So in the pictures below and on the right, you can see our subcontractor, NorCal Pipe. They go into our storm drain system and they drop in that little robot. It's a camera into our pipe and assess and measure our pipes to make sure that they're in acceptable conditions to be lined. Once they collected all the data from all the pipes on this project, then they will design and order the lining for these pipes. So we've already approved the lining material for this project, and at this moment we don't have current work due to supply chain issues. We are waiting on the liners to be delivered. They're currently being produced in Utah right now. The process takes quite a bit of time to make because it requires materials that are just slowly made. So once we get a better schedule from the contractor and the manufacturer, we will start scheduling the lining for the remaining pipes on this project. So hopefully we'll finish that.
Vicki, there's a question here.
Sure.
Can you tell us what the liner material is?
Do you know what the liner material is?
So the liner material is this resin that we have. It has so basically the contractor is supposed to submit a material that meets our standards. You know, all the specs that we require, like it has to be a certain strength, certain elasticity, and other various material properties. So, we can ensure that the pipe essentially has a second material life, and it'll prolong it even more. So what it's really made of is, I believe it's kind of like a plastic and glass that is being installed.
Like fiberglass or resin? It's basically a resin that they line the pipe to extend its useful life. We do it at the sewage treatment plant all the time. Very similar.
I was gonna add-
Everything with supply chains.
It's like HCPE, they've gone down to one manufacturer. And the guy had controlled the market and, anyway.
Yeah, so we're not the only jurisdiction that's dealing with supply chain issues. I'm sure. Michelle, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I think you guys covered it. The only other aspect of this that I wanted to add was also the contractor has made us aware of the supply chain issues, but we're giving them basically extending the project term by an extra month. I want this to be done by October 15th, which is basically what we consider the rainy season, the beginning of the rainy season. So that way we're forcing them, you need to get this completed before we get into the winter months. I don't want to deal with consequences of dewatering, or if it starts to get rainy, or we get rain in the winter, as Ron described earlier, we do have the ability to get this done in time. I think that concludes our portion of the presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Michelle, before you and your group drop off with our thanks, I just want to warn you about something that I'm going to bring up when we get to the comment period for committee members. What I'm going to suggest before we leave the meeting, a request to Karen and a request to you and a request to Pam for the things that are in her area. I think it's time we had at least a very high level review, elevator speech kind of review of what do we think about rising water levels in the bay? Because that's a question I'm getting from citizens. Gee, you're the Stormwater Management Oversight Committee. What are we going to do when the bay is 5 meters higher? And I know I'm asking for some work, but I'm hoping that you can just grab things that are already in the universe for city reports and what the city council has asked for and so forth. But before we leave here, now that I've done it, I won't have to spend much time. But I'm going to request that we have a future session that would talk about rising bay water level.
So Julie Weiss, who's part of our team, she just gave a presentation to the Utility Advisory Commission on our vulnerability assessment for sea level rise. So she'd be happy to come do that.
Okay.
The next phase is the development of the plan, the adaptation plan. And so that's.
I mean, to me,
Yep.
we mentioned in passing that the capital improvements planning certainly has to take account of it, and everybody's work has to take account of it. And I would appreciate it if our committee could get a little bit more color on it.
We'll have Julie come to one of the next meetings.
And I mean, we can also add some of the other CIP projects that I'm working with other folks. I think we try to target for the oversight committee items that are based on the ballot measure, but we definitely have projects that we're working on that are outside of the ballot measure.
The next topic here is going to address some of this as well, with the new requirements for permit system. And so it'll have to address some of that. So we're kind of jumping.
So I think Michelle and your group, that does conclude the capital expenditure review, and that brings us to point number 5 on our agenda: update on the new permit, Green Street Stewards and Rebate Program.
So they're actually all going to leave because there's a webinar right now on rising sea level tide. So Pam, not Pam, Julie's already there right now. Michelle, Rajiv, and Vicky are all attending that one. So what did you guys got?
If
Right.
anything comes up, Karen, just send me a message and I'll hop back onto this.
Sure, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Pam, it's your turn.
Yeah, so I'm gonna start off for us.
Okay.
I'm gonna share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, I love it. We got new staffers jumping right in. Welcome, Olivia.
Thanks. Right. Okay. Can everyone see the screen okay? Is it showing my notes or anything or?
Not your notes, just the presentation.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I already kind of had an introduction, but my name is Olivia Trevino. I am the Program Assistant 2 for the Watershed Protection Team. I'm going to be doing a quick update on our rebate program and outreach. Right, so I do want to start off by covering a rain barrel survey that we distributed to 132 Palo Alto residents who purchased rain barrels during the last distribution event last December. The goal was to learn how satisfied these individuals were with the rain barrel pilot program and the rebate process. As an incentive for these individuals to participate in the survey, we offered a raffling of 2 free rain barrels. So we did have quite a few responses, a total of 77 submitted responses for this survey. And we actually gained a lot of valuable feedback for future improvements for the program and also for the rebate process itself. I want to just briefly cover.
Olivia, can you just hold on 1 second? So for those that are following along, we were originally going to do the municipal regional stormwater permit first. So if you're looking at your packet, it's on page 36 on the PDF, Bob, if you're on there, and then it's in the packet printed, if you guys can find it. Sorry, Olivia, just those that were trying to find it.
Third page from the back.
Okay, thank you, Carolyn.
Sorry about that.
All right, there you go.
Okay, we're good. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly cover some of the content that was discussed in the survey. So the questions were focused on the satisfaction of the residents' experience with the program, including the picking up of the rain barrel, the installation of the rain barrel, and the receiving of the rebate from Valley Water and Palo Alto. We gained the valuable feedback so we can make improvements for this distribution and rain barrel rebate process. And I do want to give a little bit of context for everyone. So outside of the distribution event itself, Valley Water requires individuals to send them a rain barrel which they'd be interested in before they actually purchase it and then submit a rebate application. But for this specific event, Valley Water allowed us and residents to actually purchase the rain barrel before gaining approval, and then they made the rebate process a 2-week extension after they purchased the rain barrel itself. So from the survey, we learned that 2-week extension time to apply for the rebate was not enough time, and people actually found the process itself kind of confusing. So what we did with this information is that we're now working with Valley Water staff to improve this process. For example, for the next rain barrel distribution event, Valley Water has allowed us to distribute that rebate directly to Palo Alto residents rather than going through the confusing application process. So we worked with Valley Water to figure out a solution for the distribution event, but we're still working on a solution for the rebate process itself outside of the distribution. And just one major takeaway that I wanted to include in this presentation was that the majority of individuals did hear about the rebate through utility bill inserts in the City e-newsletter. So out of the 77 submitted responses, 36 of those individuals did hear through the utility bill insert. So it just gives us a little bit of insight of what outreach is working. All right, so for those individuals who participated in the survey, we also offer them a free yard sign. We offered them 2 options, which are both pictured here. So the signs were 18 by 24 full color yard sign printed with weather resistant UV ink on corrugated plastic. So unfortunately for this, we had to go with plastic material. We were researching more eco-friendly material, but because these signs were gonna be outside, there was no other option for weathering, and that would last through being outside. We did have a few extra yard signs. So what we decided to do was to work with different facilities in the city to put up these extra yard signs. Pictured here, the right corner is one of our signs at the City of Palo Alto College Library. So like this one, we put up at multiple different facilities, including city libraries, community centers, community gardens, and parks. I also wanted to include a picture here on the left of one of our signs at one of the residents' homes. So this resident actually emailed me personally thanking me for the yard sign and sent me this picture. And I think it looks really beautiful outside their home. So they're really grateful for these signs. All right, so on the topic of more signage, we also recently updated.
Can I make a, sorry, this Bob, way out over here. Are you moving off of rain barrels?
Yes, I am. Did you have a question? Sorry.
I actually had a comment.
Okay.
Number one, I absolutely agree that I did one of these. Okay, so I don't know if we met that day when I came said hello to some folks down there, but and I don't know how many committee members have done this, but it was a really great event, and the rain barrel is incredibly cool to use. I found that it took a lot more equipment to get this thing going than what the city gives. And maybe it's not fair to give feedback, but I'll just make it really quick. My rain spout could not be drilled and affected by the tools that these people gave. So I had to find a way to, number one, drill into the spout and route it to the rain barrel. So I think that it would be helpful to share information on that. The other thing is that for this to work, it needs to be elevated, and there's some great tools on elevating. And I think the city should help the residents realizing some options to get the barrel elevated. Third, it's actually been, I think it could almost be repurposed, because right now it is connected essentially to our showering and clean water production. So we basically carry barrels out of the house, or carry buckets out of the house and put it into the rain barrel. So I think the messaging or the story could also, reveal this as a year-round tool. But and I'm sorry I didn't get a sign, but I love to show my rain barrel. It's been really fun when people come into the yard, they see the rain barrel, and it's a great conversation. So I appreciate the program, but I wanted to give you that feedback. Thanks.
Yeah.
I think we can put you on a little video. We can do a little video of you of how to install and tips and tricks.
Yeah, no, it was really fun. Because I burned out a drill. I don't know, I burned out a drill trying, you don't realize, but old houses have
It's only sheet
really thick metal gutters. And it was just, I know I'm blabbing here, but I had no idea how thick the steel was in the gutter. And the picture goes, oh, as a homeowner, you're just gonna cut your gutter in half, and the gutter was stuccoed to the house. So I think everyone had their own little stories, I'm sure, but I just didn't want it to be like lemmings going, oh, here's the little barrel and la-di-da. I think we could have a lot of fun showing folks.
There is no such thing as an easy project around the house, that's my view.
Marilyn had a
Yeah,
comment
but it
too.
was, I'm still water. I mean, I'm just so happy with it. I'm watering all my veggies and running out with a towel wrapped around me from the shower to dump the shower water in there. So it's quite a sight in the neighborhood.
So is your new house have that same
Okay,
problem?
back to the regular committee meeting. Thank you, Hal.
I just want to make one comment. I got one as well. I saw the email and that got me motivated to get one. I've been thinking about it for a year or two, so that was great. I just got the rebate a few weeks ago and it took, I think, 6 tries and about 3 calls. And it's almost to the point where I'm gonna skip it and it made me angry because if other people have to go through that, they're not gonna do any other programs. And I've used some of the other rebate programs quite successfully. So I'm glad that you're working to improve that. And I can't remember if the YouTube I looked at to install it was something that came with the rain barrel or if I just it happened upon it, which I'm not good at anyway. And I agree, as you say, the project wasn't as simple as it appeared, but great program.
Sacramento has a rain barrel program. It's huge. You apply, I think it's 30% of the city gets them, so first come, first served. The city comes out and installs them, shows you how to use them. And it's a 2-barrel system. And so there's one that's a copy. I mean, it's boom, boom, boom. I don't know how much they funded it with, but it's not like my drill isn't working. They figured out a program. And so I have a good friend that is also an engineer. He's ran a bunch of cities for a long time, and he lives in Sacramento, and he has that system. And he said there's other things that they do like that. And he said he questioned it. How useful it is, but that's another whole other story. So, I mean, 100 gallons a year, a day is typical landscape use. The rain barrels are 50 gallons or something.
Correct,
But
they're 50 usually.
Where's the rain?
But
Oh, yeah, there's that.
we don't have rain either.
Yeah, my house in Boyce had 2,000 square feet of roof that was all captured by one pipe. We did a rain garden. You could have put a 10,000 gallon tank in there, but
That's right.
it would only work for a very short period of time.
2 months.
Yeah, and that's a
You
lot.
have to put the towel around you and walk out with buckets of water from your shower.
Well,
Fill it up.
actually,
Don't use soap.
Don't use
Don't use
soap.
soap
right.
inside.
Bob brings up a good point. We dump a lot of water into the sewer that could be recycled because we're working off of a 1850s plumbing system. And, it's very difficult to get the building department or building codes changed to allow gray water to actually be a separate watering system. And it's complicated because sometimes you don't want everything in the gray water to go in.
Different rules and regulations that
Yeah.
go with it too, that's the problem.
Yeah, so my hat's off to you, Bob, for going out there in your towel and dumping your shower water.
All illegally now.
All right, any other
Okay.
questions on Olivia on the rain barrel?
No, Olivia, thanks for joining the team. I'm really glad your enthusiasm for this is awesome, and I appreciate everything you're doing. So don't take anything as criticism. It's at this age, everything that sometimes comes out of my mouth sounds a little, I don't mean to say angry, but I really think it's awesome what you've done and carried.
Boomer problem.
No, thank you for your feedback, and hopefully we do have some outreach and other things planned that will address these issues that you're all speaking about. So hopefully in this presentation, I'll cover some of it. I'm just gonna move forward. Okay, perfect. I was right here. So I'm going to continue the topic on signage. So we also recently replaced some of our creek crossing signs. So at 3 of our creeks, we replaced creek crossing signs at Adobe, Matadero, and San Francisquito Creek. An example of the sign is pictured here on the right. We also we created new signage for our trash booms at Monadero and Adobe Creek, which are both pictured here as well. As you can see, they're slightly different orientations, and that's because when you go to these creeks, this is the realistic orientation of how the boom is to the actual bridge. So we just wanted to have the correct orientation. We also included a QR code here, and this would lead residents to our new trash boom webpage, which actually I'm going to go to very quickly here just to show you. So I'm going to leave my presentation.
I just want to say, I was just riding my bike this morning and saw those signs, and I was thinking, wow, I was in a little bit of a hurry, but they caught my eye, and I thought, that's just the perfect sign, so well done.
Thank you. Yeah, so this is also our new trash boom webpage that I think went live last month. So the webpage gives a little short background of why we have this project and that it is a partnership with Valley Water to address trash that accumulates in our creeks and then ends up reaching our baylands. It also has information on what is a trash boom. And we have this beautiful diagram created by SGA Marketing. And then we've also created a map showing the locations of our trash booms at Monadero and Adobe Creek. They are marked here with the stars. So you can click on either one. And going down further down the page, we also included some data from our National River Cleanup Day and Coastal Cleanup Day, and also some data on the most common trash that is removed from these booms. And then of course, we have to have some pictures of what they look like deployed. All right, I'm just gonna quickly go back to my presentation.
Olivia, while you're doing that, I think these signs are fabulous. What is the order of magnitude of the cost for producing them? I mean, how much of your budget are you using for them?
Per sign. Pam, do you mind jumping in? I don't 100% remember what the budget was for these.
I would have to look at the cost, but it's maybe $300, something like that. They're actually not very much.
Yeah, I think this is really good interaction with the public, letting them know what's going on. And I would even put a line that says your stormwater dollars at work.
Oh yeah, and you can,
Yeah.
yes, and you can see there is a line. What we put is funded by the city of Palo Alto stormwater management fee, and we put that on the creek signs as well.
Yeah, but at 50 miles an hour, I couldn't see that.
Well,
I'm being
But,
facetious.
well,
No,
right.
it needs to
If
be
you're
bigger.
walking
Look.
by or riding by, hopefully you'll stop and look
Yeah.
at it.
But if you look at the Caltrans signs, they say your tax dollars at work SB1, and that's pretty much all you can see when you're driving on 101 or any of those other things. But that's a big, powerful message. So thank you for doing this. It's a great addition.
Well, you know, I would like your feedback if you all want to use different wording. We thought about using something like what you suggested, David, but we decided to go with something very specific so that people really know which taxes are going to it, you know, which fee.
Yeah, no.
Because that's on their bill,
Yeah.
so they see it.
Sure.
So then they go, oh, okay, I'm spending this much money, it's going to something.
Yeah.
stupid sign.
Yeah.
Well, come on, Dina.
I don't mean me, there's
always
somebody who's just
Yeah.
I think
Listen.
most people are environmentalists, think really, I don't care what the politics are. And you can say what we're preserving with these programs and where lead work is and things like that. I think most people, if they understood that, would understand the importance of some of these programs.
It's good education.
Yeah.
You can't help but learn something when you see the sign.
That's true.
And one other note about the creek signs, right now, we just are going to install them at the just downstream of the 101 at each of the creeks. In the future, when we can take on a larger project, we'll be putting them in along the entire length of the creek for all three of them.
Great.
So just an FYI, we've done signage before, then we also got who's gonna maintain it when there's graffiti. There's this, so signage is always a great idea, but then when you get to we have signage up on the, on the Baylands area and the amount of graffiti and the cleanup that's required. So there, we have to look at it, what is beneficial. So we're gonna put these out, see how they go, and then we're gonna have to determine, because someone's gotta maintain it. And just like you're saying, someone come in and install a rain barrels, we don't have staff to do all these things, so our staff head count is with the ballot fee for stormwater is kind of stuck. We didn't add a whole lot we added some staff, but not a huge head count when we got this fee approved. So,
But like in the case of Sacramento, you get, how much should they budget to do that?
right,
And then you
exactly.
can go to the city and say, to do this program right, this is what it costs.
Right, but then ours was a ballot. So all of the money that you guys oversee was a ballot that went through.
I would,
That-
I would
that-
also almost guarantee Sacramento contracts that out. Somebody, they're contracting somebody to purchase and to sort of run the program for them. It's not city staff.
Right, but so how many, probably millions of dollars, who knows, with the city that size. So-
Right. But I just, so for us, we have to work with the budget we currently have. And if we need to add anything, we have to go back to the voters again. Because as you know, our general fund isn't replenished yet.
That's
from
why
COVID.
we're here.
Exactly. All right, Pam, keep on going. Just trying to remind, we have lots of tasks at a hand that we're trying to make sure we can do with our budget, which is
But that's a key.
There,
I mean, a full-blown program is this, we're trying to make it work with this. I mean, so that you can see, you know, we only have this, you know.
Pam, is it you or Olivia?
Oh, it's me. Sorry, I can continue. I was waiting, make sure no one had any more comments.
Thank you, Olivia.
Right, so my team has also been experimenting with new platforms to promote our stormwater rebate program. Most recently, about two Saturdays ago, we posted on the city's Instagram and Twitter for Sustainable Saturday. This is the graphic that was posted for that Saturday, and it was created by SGA Marketing. We definitely plan on using social media outreach for our future events, as well as promoting other programs as well. Now, going into more future outreach. So we are exploring the city's different platforms. We are working with SGA.
One comment.
Sure.
Could you go to the previous slide? I think it's really pretty, don't get me wrong. But I feel like you might, as you keep working with them, conceivably focus more like, you know, pick your topic like the rain barrel and consider focusing your message on adoption like that. I'm thinking of the analogy how we're looking at the heat pump water heater across the residential as the way we plan to step into residential climate change. There's a lot of other things in the house, but you pick your topic. And I feel like presenting, you know, complexity like this is not going to have the engagement. I'm not the expert, but I just wanted to give you that feedback that I feel like our goal, I might offer that our goal should be, you know, 15% of residents have a rain barrel. You know, let's target that and I don't want, or the water gardens, but back burner some of these other things, because I think you're putting out too much stuff and it'll just kind of glaze over the eyes. Just a little feedback. Okay.
So I don't, it's not appropriate to get into sort of a battle over this, but I'm of the opinion that the rain barrel is the least important thing that we could be doing on that list, and that rain gardens would be the most important. So it just, you've had a great experience and I'm happy for you. But it doesn't mean that it's the be all and end all. And that's really all I wanted to say is I didn't want staff to leave with the impression that the committee is 100% behind rain barrels. That's all.
Yeah, I second that.
I do too.
Yeah, me too. I would say the one that I would drop off is pervious pavement. That's a huge, huge investment, not likely to be done by anybody that's not doing a big remodeling project. And maybe the way to approach that is through some kind of building department interface. It says, when you're doing this, think about, redoing your house, building a new house, think about that. I know this gets
Okay.
complicated.
Really fast.
Yeah, my only
Might be a
My only
good
comeback-
segue
My only comeback is that when I began the recycling programs in town, we started getting people, sort of doing newspaper and cans. So all I'm looking at it as a way is how you introduce people to thinking about water. So I'll leave it, but it wasn't necessarily in terms of effectiveness. It was more just trying to think of what's the easiest way to get people engaged. So that was the rationale, but I do respect all the other commenters. I just want you to know that. Bye.
And Pam, maybe when you talk about the new municipal regional stormwater permit requirements, you can tie in some of the previous statement, just thoughts. So Olivia, you want to keep on going?
Yeah, I just want to make a point that I will talk about it in a couple of slides from now. We are going to do an outreach event focusing on rain barrels, and we're focusing on rain barrels just because that is the most feasible for residents and most affordable, even though I do agree that rain gardens are important as well. I just wanted to put that out there just before I go forward. All right, so back to the future outreach that we have. We are working with SGA to create material to promote future outreach events on the City e-newsletter. Example what that looks like, I believe we created this one in 2019. It was at the top right there. We'll be creating one for our future workshop event for Summer Winds Nursery. We're also going to be using the city's blog to promote and educate the community about stormwater rebates. And we're also going to be focusing on rain barrels on that blog, and also including an interview of a resident who recently has received the rebate and is using their rain barrel successfully. So just giving a perspective of a resident for everyone. And then also lastly, for future outreach.
Olivia.
Yes.
Just wondering, would you want to include Home Depot? That's where I spent most of my money to get my rain barrel going. I mean, it seems like they would have an incentive to promote
Include
that.
to include it on the blog or the, and
No, the workshop
At the
Oh, a
workshop
workshop.
there, because that's where I had to buy all the pavers and the pipes and everything to fit it together. And Home Depot does a lot of little classes for stuff. Anyway, just a thought to do what you want with.
yeah, definitely. I'm going to go a little more into the Summer Winds Nursery workshop in the next slide as well too. So we're also working on business and resident fact sheets to address and also educate businesses and residents on the new MRP3 requirements, and then also educate them on best management practices or BMPs. So just an example of what this would look like for businesses. Say we're creating a fact sheet for food facilities. That fact sheet would include best management practices that focus on trash, waste, fog, so fats, oils, and grease, and then housekeeping items specifically for that food establishment. So that's in the works right now. We're also working with SJA marketing on these. So hopefully next update, we'll have some examples of those for you. All right, so lastly, I did want to talk about our future outreach event. So this outreach event, we are working with Summer Winds Nursery. So they are located in Palo Alto. They're located at Middlefield Road, the corner of Middlefield Road, sorry. And the event will be held on Saturday, September 24th, between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. The goal of this event is to educate city residents on stormwater capture, pollution prevention, and the benefits of rain barrels. So for this event, there'll be two types of outreach happening. The first outreach will be a tabling where city staff, including myself, will be interacting with the public and those individuals coming in and out of the nursery. and just educating these people about our different rebate programs, about our rain barrel rebate, and also handing out outreach material. We'll also be working with the utilities staff as well, who will be there at the event, and they'll be having their own outreach material. The second part of this outreach event is going to be a 1-hour demonstration of how to install a rain barrel properly at your home, which is kind of what we talked about earlier. People kind of struggled with installation, which is one of the feedbacks from the survey. So we decided to focus on an outreach event that will address this issue. So the rain barrel demonstration will be conducted by a Bosqua installator professional. And then to help with this event, Summer Winds has agreed to install their own rain barrel before the event. So I'm actually supposed to receive, the rain barrel is supposed to arrive today. So hopefully next week, I'll be able to deliver that to Summer Winds Nursery, and they'll install that on site for the event. We're also creating a lot of different promotional material for this event. We're working with SGA Marketing again with this. So we're going to be utilizing the many platforms that I discussed earlier, including our social media platforms and then the newsletter as well. Summer Winds has agreed to help with some promotional items, including they have a distribution list, an email distribution list, where they'll be sending out this material. And then to get more people out to the event and some incentive at the event, we're going to be raffling off 1 free rain barrel. So it'll be really exciting to raffle it off there at the event, and then someone that day will be going home with it. And then because this is a registered event, we're going to be using Eventbrite for this event. We'll be gaining information on the amount of attendees and also information on them if they would like us to do some follow-ups for any of the rebate information, and we may even distribute a survey to gather some feedback. Right, so that's all I had for everyone today. If you have any more questions, just please let me know. Thank you for your time.
Doesn't the rebate program give the rain barrel away for free?
It's not 100% free. We only cover $70 of the barrel. Yeah.
Sorry, Olivia, say that again. How much do we cover again?
We cover $70. It's 35 from Valley Water and 35 from Palo Alto, with a total of 70. So we don't cover the full amount of a barrel.
What's the cost?
The barrel, it depends. I believe the one that we just bought was 135. So it covers a good amount of the barrel itself. It depends on the size you get.
Yeah, last year they.
So can I ask, I think the last time we talked about the green water program, and this rain barrel portion, didn't we have like $125,000 that was unspent for years after years, and we dialed it down in the budget a little bit because we couldn't spend it? Why are we not getting these
75.
rain barrels?
So Pam will have to answer this. I wasn't here. I'm new, so I'm not 100% sure.
So
the
I'm
budget.
asking sort of the committee here, why aren't we
Oh.
giving these away?
Why
Why we-
people install them? They have to have some.
You need some kind of, you can't just give 3 rain barrels and not make sure they're installed.
Skin it, so that it's a
Some
skin in the
skin
game thing?
Yeah.
The other
Why
thing
not-
You can do with them
okay.
is we have potable water issues in emergencies where the water supplies get shut off. And you can use them for potable water and to be used in an emergency situation. So there's other things you can do with them, but it's not raining.
Why not then do a 2-stage grant effectively? You get $75 off the $130 barrel. When you demonstrate by a photograph that you've installed it, then we rebate the rest.
So we can evaluate the rebate program, the 100, we've also been looking at other options for that money. Because rain barrels, one of many things that we could do. So,
Right.
and as we were talking about, is that, there's lots of other green storm infrastructure projects that we also are trying to move forward on as well. So, but yeah, this is something that we can discuss and bring back, and we'll talk about it at staff level.
Well, I'm just thinking, trying to tie Bob's thought that
Yeah.
this is a lead-in to stormwater consciousness and engagement. And even in Palo Alto, money out of the pocket is a disincentive to some extent.
Although it still costs about $40, $50 to install it, depending if you wanted to go trading back into your storm, into your trading. But if it's just a hose like that going into the garden, that's a whole different installation situation.
Yep.
So
Just-
hopefully they're not demonstrating that.
Well, you could make the rebate bigger too. It's just a thought because we weren't using this money and we still, as far as I can tell, don't have a viable way of actually.
Another thought is if you do it at someplace like Home Depot, and I'm not favoring that over other supply stores, but if you get the rain barrel for almost nothing and then a credit for $30 to buy your plumbing or acreage there, then that.
People really do. We have if you look at the population of how well is all around, it's getting older and it's becoming a lot of people that don't speak English. Over half our population now is from China. There's nothing wrong with that, but they don't do stuff like that.
And also there's a lot of renters, so they don't want to, that rain gutters.
I'm just saying that what's our population we want to have,
Yeah.
they're not gonna do rainbows.
Lord.
All my neighbors have moved in, they're nice people, but they came in with nice hours and they don't do stuff.
I think that's a valid point. The demographics
are changing.
Are a little different than us.
The fact of the matter is, the rain barrels are in the budget, staff is doing what they've signed up to do, and they're telling us what's happening, and we're grousing about one thing and another, but nevertheless, it hasn't been scratched as a program, and it's not our job to scratch it, so. Maybe we can stop talking about rain barrels. Dina's tired of rain barrels, sorry. She's being crabby.
Well, Dina, I don't think anybody's talking about scratching the
No,
program.
she's just being cheeky.
I am being cheeky.
Sorry.
I
shouldn't say that, Tina.
In the past program, the rain barrels disappeared quite quickly, so
They
they
did.
have capacity to increase it as you have it already.
Right.
That was like a pilot, I guess.
It was.
So you're probably gonna have 5 times of them when you get sell them all in a week
Yeah.
as well.
We should move ahead.
That's a success.
All right, Olivia, keep on going.
I'm finished, I believe. Pam was going to present next. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Olivia,
You're welcome. Thank you.
and welcome to the team.
Thanks.
I think we have a very excited team of stormwater enthusiasts.
All right, okay, so we're going to talk about something else that's funded by the stormwater management fee, and hopefully you will all find it pretty interesting. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So as you all know, we chose to dig into what had been done in Southgate and try to revitalize the bioretention areas that were there. And it's wanted to remind you, give you some background about the project, and then talk to you about what we're doing there now. It's grown into a much larger project. So as a reminder, I'm sorry, did someone say something?
No, I just said great.
All right, great. All right. So as a reminder, the Southgate neighborhood does not have a traditional storm drain system. So it doesn't have any storm drain pipes except at the downstream part of the neighborhood by Greer Park. And so we are, I'm sorry, I got distracted because I'm not sure, is that the right name of the park? I think it is.
No.
Pierce Park?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, there was a lot of ponding at a lot of these intersections, and there was extra funding from the prior stormwater fee. And so there was a big attempt with the prior manager and Rajiv to put in these green stormwater infrastructure areas. And so as a reminder, this is a very, very general description of what it looks like, but basically it's a depression in the ground that captures stormwater from the street, from roofs, from sidewalks, and it's built so that it has special soil here that can infiltrate, and then it has different levels of gravel down here. And once it all infiltrates, if it overflows, it goes into a pipe right here that then goes into a storm drain system. Those in Southgate, because we don't have a storm drain system, actually have very deep infiltration columns that they go into, and then they go into the groundwater. So that is a much more expensive project. We cannot do that with all fire retention areas, but this is basically what one looks like. It's a pretty typical way to put in green stormwater infrastructure. It's a pretty popular way because it also adds vegetation. You can bring biodiversity to an area, and a lot of times you can grow trees as well. So you can, help with air quality, heat island effect, etc. So this is a before and after in 2011 and then 2015. This bioretention, if you go out there now, and it looks somewhat different, but this is what it looked like before. They put this in. You can see after a rainstorm, there was no ponding. Of course, there might be ponding during the rainstorm and with very large rains, but it is definitely a big improvement. So as we started working there, we realized that a lot of these bioretention areas really needed maintenance. As you can see, these are 4 different areas. Some of the plants are dead, some of them died and then were not replaced. As you can see over here, they were full of weeds, leaves, just for a number of reasons, including the fact that we don't have an experienced landscape contractor maintaining these. There was not a maintenance plan created for these areas. There wasn't anyone really overseeing to make sure that these were maintained over time. Kind of a long list because our stormwater program as it is now didn't exist. There weren't staff uniquely devoted to stormwater compliance, and so we weren't able to put that amount of time and attention. So we realized that we really needed to dig into replanting these, as we've told you before. And just to remind you, once again, this is coming from Stormwater Fund. A lot of our city staff is going into this. Also, it's, staff from parks have really supported us, both who work on parks maintenance and irrigation. We're also paying for the plants, the bio treatment soil that goes in there, and also compost. So, and thus far, a lot of the plants have been grown in the nursery that Grassroots Ecology has in our Foothills Nursery. A Valley Water grant was given to Grassroots Ecology, so they're offsetting a lot of their staff time, and they're also paying for work days for the San Jose Conservation Corps. The San Jose Conservation Corps is made up of students that go to a high school and then go into a work program starting at age 17, where they teach workforce development. And these are students from underrepresented communities in the city of San Jose. So we have been working all together. The grant for Valley Water has paid for their time. We also have been able to set up a contract, minimal contract, pretty affordable contract, and paid for some of Valley Water staff time. And we've been able to make this work so that we've been able to replant all these over time, at some point with volunteers, at some point just us, when the height of COVID was happening. I'll be talking a little bit more about that. So I wanted to show you this picture, this little video that SGA, our consultant, put together. Oh, yes, it doesn't work with the arrow. Okay, here we go. This is one of the first that we replanted. And I don't,
We have drip irrigation or something.
yeah, this really captures how things are transforming in the neighborhood. We did move all the rocks that were there. I don't know if you remember from the prior pictures, but there was rock, there was no mulch. One of the kind of older approaches to putting in bioretention was that they put in rock mulch, but then that was found to really, especially in hotter areas, heat up the plants and cause them to die, or at least cause them to cause a lot of stress on the plants. So we don't put rock mulch anymore. We're using regular mulch that's composted. And we tried to reuse a lot of the materials. We gave away the rocks that were there to neighbors and other people. Some of these larger rocks we had to buy, but we did reuse what we could. And this one in particular is all native plants. And so Grassroots Ecology is also working with volunteers and interns to do a biodiversity count of the bees, and the bee population has really increased in these areas. So one thing
I just want to, I get to do my testimonial, which is I walk in this neighborhood a lot, and it's been wonderful to see. And now everything looks great. And I can remember a couple of years ago in this committee complaining about how terrible they look. So thank you very much. It's really successful.
Thank you. I mean, it's definitely a work in progress. There are some people.
I don't know.
Pam, are you watering them? That's one of the questions.
Yes, we have
They're
irrigation.
the ones, they do have irrigation?
We have irrigation in all of them. We need to establish them for a couple of years, and then we'll determine if the frequency of irrigation. But right now we are irrigating them, I believe it's 3 times a week. Bob?
3 times a week.
Oh, that's a lot.
Well, you have to establish the plants when they're new.
Right. I
So
understand that.
usually it takes a couple of years for them, and then you can dial it back. You have to look at the long.
Right. I understand.
And that is just, sorry, Bob, 1 second. That is a disadvantage of the bioretention areas, is that we do have to irrigate them. And I realize that, we're in a we have water supply issues. We don't have any recycled water in this area, so we are having to use potable water. So that is the downside. We wanted to try to use native plants, and we're finding that they may require too much water, so that we might need to put more drought tolerant plants that may not be native, but we might need to adjust the plant palette in order to irrigate them less.
I
Sorry.
brought this up before. I was told that you're picking plants that are really drought tolerant, so they minimize water use. Is that correct?
So these are native and drought tolerant, but we may have to switch to non-native that are more drought tolerant, is what Pam was just saying.
Because, I
That's
mean,
correct.
We're all talking about the.
I think he's having a hard time hearing you.
you.
Pam, I think he's having a hard time hearing you.
Oh,
Can you not hear?
I could try to speak in my microphone. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that might be better. So he's
That better?
having a hard time, which is why
Sure.
I'm repeating.
No problem. Okay, and Bob, did you have a question?
Yes, I was wondering if you do any infiltration tests in the project. I have my own antidotal flower pot experience where I watch the congestion of the roots grow to where it almost creates like a hard pan, and I just have this concern that we have healthy vegetation, but we lower our infiltration rate. And I'm wondering if you actually take any measurements to track that in this pilot stage.
Well, we are planning to do that where what we did with like the second phase of replanting some areas, Amiramonte, if you know that area. We did do some infiltration tests there to determine how we should amend the existing soil. And we do have a challenge in that we are required to use a particular type of soil mix that is mostly sand and some compost. And as you can imagine, that infiltrates very fast, which also doesn't help the plants. And so we are able to come up with our own soil mix and submit it for laboratory tests. And if we meet the infiltration rate requirement, then we are allowed to use that new soil mix. And so we've been slowly testing out some different soil mixes with additional compost. Peter Jensen, our landscape architect in Public Works, has been doing that in some other projects as well. And we also tested biochar in one particular area. So we haven't been able to dig deep into that, but we are hoping to come up with a new soil mix that will infiltrate slower, but will still be within that regulatory ratio that we need to keep. What we find a lot is that the compost.
Yeah, I just want to give you a time check. Because I know the MRP is really important. We spend a lot of time on other items, so I just want for you to think about what you want to prioritize. Because it's 2:45.
Well, it's going to be hard to do both with the time that's left.
Right. So I just push off the MRP to the next one.
Yeah, we'll just do that then, I guess. So I'll finish this one. Just to finish, what I was saying is that a lot of sites in the Bay Area are finding and beyond that the compost, decomposes and then just leaves sand, and then that becomes kind of a hard pan if you don't continue to maintain it in a way that you're adding compost every couple of years and you're remulching. And so that's what we need. We're actually, I think we have mentioned and come with a consultant in December when we talked about a maintenance plan where we're creating some maintenance guidelines for all our bioretention areas. And we're also trying to come up with a way to monitor them, at least some simple ways, like looking at, soil moisture, trying to determine when do they need to be amended, maybe even replacing soil, remulching, those kind of things. So we're getting there, Bob. It's a slow process, but
thank you.
That is an intention. We do realize that we need to,
Okay.
We have these regulatory requirements, but the implementation is what we're trying to still figure out.
Okay, thanks, Pam.
Sure. So one thing that we want.
So that you have plants and then other stuff in plants. So drip irrigation.
There's certain
Uses water use.
So there's certain design specifications specifically for GSI that Pam has to follow. It's different than a rain garden.
Okay,
Which is which is why it's challenging when we're meeting regulatory requirements with GSI. It's different than what would necessarily be in a rain garden, right, Pam? So,
right. So a rain
that
garden
is
is more depressed. A rain garden is basically a depressed area with plants that is receiving roof runoff, but you can put whatever plants you want. You can put whatever soil you want. You can mulch it. You cannot mulch it. There's a lot of freedom around a rain garden. Putting in a rain garden doesn't give us any regulatory credit at all. We have to put in bioretention that meets a long list of requirements.
right, and that's what.
Is there a way to change that?
No, and it's getting harder, which is what the MRP permit discussion is that we're trying to. We just end up with we just can't get to it today, but we'll talk about it the next meeting because the new regional stormwater permit has a lot more requirements in it that we need to figure out how we're gonna meet as a city.
We saw that, it'd be nice to get ready for a little more detail. Because of
What more detail do you want? I mean, we can give you a permit, like you.
Well,
I can send you the permit if you want to see the new permit. And I don't think you could read it, but I don't think most people want to read the whole permit.
Okay.
But yeah, we can send them the permit before the next meeting. if
The
they
other
want.
thing I keep bringing up is the LA plan of going away from black concrete. and Black asphalt, for instance, there was made a big difference as far as temperature for surface water and also temperature for the area around the streets. There's stuff like anyways. But that ties into drainage.
But right, so That's separate to what is in our MRP permit.
It was both there.
It's not in that permit. Sorry, Pam.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
they don't write the permit.
We just have to
Oh,
follow.
I
Somebody else
understand
writes
that,
it.
yeah. It's part of that, it'd do the
Can you
permit.
hear what he's saying, Pam, about the black concrete? So we'll talk offline. Anyway,
Okay, all right.
so finish.
I'll check in with Karen.
And then we'll do MRP permit the next meeting, which is.
Sure.
October.
Okay, so one thing that we wanted to do with this project is try to do a lot of this revamping of the bioretention areas with neighbors. We started this in the fall of 2020. We chose not to work with neighbors at that point. In 2021, we thought that we would start working with neighbors, and they slowly have been getting involved. At the beginning, we just had some volunteer work days. And now we have built it into more of a formal program. We're still calling it a pilot program. We still want to test out, are enough residents really interested? Is it sustainable? How much staff time does it take to maintain this? And at some point, are we able to back off and have maybe a nonprofit organization try to maintain it with much less staff time? And that's what we're trying to do with grassroots ecology right now. It's still at the very beginning stages. Right now, we're having to establish a lot of structure around the program. And so we are spending a lot of staff time on this. So we're still testing things out.
Doesn't start and
I'm sorry?
So it doesn't start and die. So I said, that's the hope, that we're gonna keep it going, keep it
Right.
alive.
Exactly. And if it's going to die, then it doesn't make sense to do this somewhere else. So we're just focusing in the Southgate neighborhood right now. And this is a type of stewards program that is successful in other parts of the country, but it really depends on, on the culture and et cetera. So these are the expectations that we share with the stewards. We require everyone to first they have to fill out a form that basically a volunteer agreement that they say, we agree to sign up and take care of these areas for a year. We're holding them to a year right now. They say which ones they want to take care of. They might choose one, they might choose two. Some of them, a lot of people live close to the bioretention areas they're taking care of. They also have to sign a liability agreement. And then they also have to attend training with grassroots ecology and staff. And then we give them what we're calling a maintenance kit. There's a couple of different tools that we give them. We give them a safety vest that we put the logo of the Green Street Stewards program on the back. And this is for kids and adults. And a couple of other small things. One big thing that we're still working on is a plant guide. And that is going to have all the plants that are in these bioretention areas with information about how to identify them, how to weed them, how to remove weeds, how to identify weeds and remove weeds, and how to maintain the other plants, how to prune them, and how to help take care of other areas like cleaning the inlets and things like that. So far we don't provide like brooms and rakes, but if anyone wants them, we will purchase them. So that is.
Pam, can we keep it more high level and try and get through the slides, just because we still have a little bit left on the agenda?
Sure.
Sorry.
And we're asking them to report every time they conduct monthly maintenance. I'm sorry?
Oh, Ron was just wondering if we're gonna be out of here at 3. I said we should be. So.
Okay. So just to give you an idea of the bioretention areas, we have 16. The 2 that are green right here have been replanted but are not adopted. The one that are not have not been stewarded yet. The ones with the hearts all around here volunteers have agreed to take care of them. And then these 4 here have not been replanted. This fall, we will work on these. These 2, a neighbor is really involved, and has already agreed to take care of them, although they haven't been replanted yet. And just to give you a sense of, Dina, you probably saw these signs. On the left, we have put them in all the bioretention areas. We have created a web page where they can go, and if they go to this QR code, they can go to a web page and learn more about the project. They can learn more about what would the expectations be if they're interested in caring for one of them. If they're cared for, they get this, which is like a real estate sign, so it comes in and out. And once someone agrees to take care of something, then we replace it with the left. Otherwise, it has the one on the right. We have gotten some complaints from some neighbors about the signage. So we are right now just planning to keep it there for a year. We are not sure what to do with it long term. On the right is an example of the draft vegetation guide that I mentioned. So this is what's coming up. We have another neighborhood. We had a neighborhood meeting in March. We're going to have another one coming up to let people know how things are going. And this summer and in the fall, we're going to be working on the last 4 areas. So next steps is that we're developing a work plan. As we said, we need to create a lot of structure for grassroots ecology. So we're working on that so that we have very clear expectations and clear communication methods for reaching out to all the different stewards. We're trying to improve some more training and managing volunteers, and we're going to improve the monitoring and the monitoring of the bioretention areas, as I mentioned, I already mentioned when Bob asked that question, and we're reevaluating the plant palette. And so just to share some challenges that we've had, one is that some people don't like how some of these look. They think they are too wild. They have asked for them to look, they want them just landscape, like some plants in a row and call it a day. They want landscaping plants that aren't really wildlife friendly. They don't think we're maintaining them enough. So we're trying to get a better schedule going. We're trying to work more with the stewards to get them more active. Some people don't have confidence in the residents that they will stay involved. And I think we need to work on more community outreach. We did door hangers. We had a meeting, but people are still feel that we haven't done enough outreach, that they didn't know enough about the project. And so those are some things we were using the word adopt. That was an issue with some people. So we are now not using that word adopt. It slipped out earlier, but I didn't mean for that to happen. So now it's called the Stewards Program. We're calling them stewards and not adopters. So that's some of the challenges. And now it's done. All right.
Well,
Sorry
Pam, no good deed goes unpunished here.
Exactly. We have found that out. Yes. But I think overall, there's been great benefits. The people who like the project really like the project. And so what we're trying to just figure out is how do we address the concerns so that the neighborhood would be happy with what we're doing.
If I were a neighbor, I would agree that a year is a very long time for a sign.
Well, one is that we need to get stewards for all the areas. And another thing is that we thought that people would want to get credit, just like when a highway is adopted or a creek is adopted, it always says, adopted by something. We're not using the word adopt, but just to give you an example of the names of those programs, it always says, the name of the organization or something. So,
but a sign next to a highway or a sign next to a creek is different from the sign across the street from my home. I think in a residential area, the signage question is a different one.
Yes. So I think when we hit the year mark, which is going to be next summer, we'll remove the signs, and we might, I don't know if you've seen some of those thermoplastic do not drain, this drains into the bay at storm drain inlets, or a medallion or something like that. We might do something like that.
Yeah, I think those are great. So thank you very much. We need to devote about 4.5 minutes to the remaining 2 items on our calendar, which are agenda planning and And then any inputs that individual members of the committee have on these issues. Agenda planning, Karen, can you squeeze in? Maybe the October meeting is the wrong time. If we have to talk about the permit process at the October meeting, right? That's, we want to spend a lot of time on that. So perhaps that it's the wrong time to ask for the longer range rising bay levels presentation.
Well,
What's your
the
thought?
timing might work because we just got a pretty detailed CIP update. So one option is, I'll look at the agenda, but maybe it's sea level rise and the permit.
Okay.
And
You
I'll
can
talk.
have that sea level rise question in December or January when it's pouring rain.
Exactly.
Okay. Well,
We'll work and see
we'll
what
leave it
works.
to you
Yeah.
as to what the agenda should look like. I think there was some nodding of the heads about
That's a good
adding the
idea.
sea level rise
Good
discussion. I think that's something that our neighbors want us to be conversant.
We talked, at one time, we talked about integrating more water, bigger water picture, right? And we got died, I guess, but it's, and I don't think this is sort of the group that should do the whole water program for the city, but I think we're starting to have more interrelationships.
And we always, right, and we always try and bring people into this group. It's just not necessarily do you have the authority to direct staff, but it's more just for informational. So as long as we can get the core functions of what this oversight committee does, and if there's time allocated or available, we'll bring in others that are interrelated.
Do you have an October date?
Yes, it's October 6th for the first Thursday, 1 to 3, even months.
We're still members.
Remember we said not till May
Oh,
31st of 23.
I'll be out of town and
So
I-
if we know that everyone's gonna be out of town, we can try and reschedule that one.
yeah, I'm out of town for the
But everybody.
4th to the 20th of October.
Well, that's nice for you.
We can
I worked
double
all my
check.
life to do this.
Good.
It's hard to find places you can't zoom.
We can,
Well, there's a lot of Utah and Nevada.
It just sort of informs where you want to be sure you vacation, right? So you
Yes.
can't possibly zoom.
France,
So-
maybe, or.
so maybe the first Thursday of October, but maybe you can ask people what their availability is for
Yes.
that in the next.
I might, since the MRP presentation's already done, we could potentially just cancel the October meeting and make it to later September. So I'll work with my staff for availability before, and then I'll set up and see.
But it's
for
mainly just
availability for you.
information because it's done. Is that the-
Correct, it's just how are we gonna comply and understanding the
But
new
we're not-
regulations.
No input, just this is what's gonna happen.
Correct.
Are there other
We'll
inputs
send-
from
we'll send-
committee members, expressions of concern, vital items to come to the attention of the
I
staff?
want to second your concern about finding for suitable rise. And it's part of my question about the homes. Now, if we're looking 20 years ahead or 50 years ahead, 100 years ahead. And the other concern I have is, are we incorporating, as more and more maintenance takes over, are we considering that as part of our challenge? You know, if we have more and more runoff. And
So
is that-
that's what we discussed a little bit more of the municipal regional stormwater permit, because there's actually regulatory requirements when you pave new areas. Or repave.
But I know when I was first on this committee, I was asking, is there any way we know if we can keep it up with ourselves versus making progress? And I'm still interested in that question.
Okay. Hannah, did you hear that one?
I'd like to hear.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
could you repeat that,
In fact, if
please?
there's somebody look at are these things successful or not? And should we put our money somewhere else? That's what I'd like to, I'd like to see what makes sense.
The fact
Because
that
we're trying to get bang for the buck is what your issue is, right?
It's always a good thing to keep your eye on, for sure.
So the percent impervious and how we're doing on keeping up with monitoring that was Marilyn's question. Just to make a
So
note.
is the question if it's done or when it's going to be done? Is that the question?
Yeah, we can bring this up at the next meeting, but just that's one of her things, a question. You don't have to answer it right now. Because we
It's
need
not an
mindful time.
answer.
Yeah. So, and you guys always send me ideas and then we can, I don't always review the agenda with Al, but if there's certain items that Al or I think it might be, I'm not sure if it should be on, I'll check in with our chair.
Thank you, everyone. I
Thank
think
you,
I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved and seconded and without objection, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good